hope you're having a really good Tuesday. It's been a whirlwind of a day between yesterday and today. I hope that it's been magical this morning. But over the course of yesterday, there were so many bits and pieces of news that I'm just like, my head was spinning. And I know that it can get overwhelming for anyone trying to consume the news at the pace in which it is being thrown at the wall. So first off, thank you so much for being here, whether you are live or on a replay. Thank you so much for tuning in. My name is Dr. Sandra Colton-Medici, and I always talk about policy, technology, lifestyle bits and pieces. So I kind of wanted to start with some of that this morning. Feel free to drop in the comments, tell me where you are logging in from, and also subscribe to my channel if you haven't already. It is free. Nothing there. But videos of me talking about all the good stuff. So let's get into some of the things that I think are the headlines of the morning. Okay, this is the biggest one that I think a lot of people will remember, which is the Menendez brothers. Hey, Sean, how are you? The Menendez brothers were sentenced to prison, and there was there were two trials. I don't know if you saw them. This was back in the 90s. This was during the sort of O.J. Simpson trial era. This was a big sort of news event every single day. Okay, so they were, I think one was in high school or just out of high school, and one was in college, like college age, when they were convicted of murdering their parents. Okay, so this actually, they had a not a, they had two different things, a documentary and a sort of short limited series, Netflix, I think, series. And it went through, like one was like highly produced by the guy who does American Horror Story. Thank you so much for liking my live stream. And then the other was a documentary where they actually visited them in prison. Okay. Hey, Vivian, how are you? It's very dramatic. And the portrayal during the sort of limited series one was so on point, especially by the person who played the younger brother. This was the older brother, and this is the younger brother. But they're gonna get a new sentencing hearing. So I don't know if you had been following this. But there have been some sort of initiative, some sort of like campaigning going on, to try to get these brothers a new sentence. They have served a very long time. And the sort of argument behind the new sentencing was that, their age at the time, the sort of pressure on the DA to make the case and get them convicted were abnormal in their circumstances. Now, I'm not sure what you feel about this, if they should just rot in prison. I would love to hear your opinion. If they should be getting out, if we should even be seeing them on the streets, because clearly they had an interesting upbringing, and they say some things in the documentary about why the sort of snap happened. And so let me just show you a little bit more of what they were saying. Or this is a different story. Hold on. This is the story here. It says, long-awaited resentencing hearing on Tuesday set to determine whether two brothers who killed their wealthy parents in Beverly Hills could be freed from prison after 3 decades. And it goes on to talk about like the meticulously planned 1989 killings. Like basically they went through this whole like confession almost with their psychologist, which is kind of how they ended up sort of being, I think, extorted. Like there was a lot going on. So they've been in there for 3 decades. People who have apparently similar charges and convictions, I don't think that they served as much time. And I think that is sort of the argument here, that the circumstances that other people have seen in relationship to these kinds of tragedies did not receive the same amount of sentencing. So we'll see if they get sentenced, and if they get released on like time served, which would be the news story of the day. Because this story was everywhere. Like at one point, I think they were in. I think Lyle was in the same prison as O.J. Simpson. it's just like they were in the same sort of circles with like the same sorts of lawyers and everything like that. Speaking of prisons, let's talk about this. Okay, so this case is going on too, which is taking up a lot of the headlines this morning, which is the P. Diddy trial. Cassie Ventura, apparently, I think she's on the stand right now. This is a story from yesterday about the security guard who, it says, pinned Diddy after the assault on Cassie in that hotel room. And I wanted to show you what he said to him. This guy's name was Israel Flores, the security guard at the Intercontinental Hotel in Century City. If you didn't see the footage, it's devastating of P. Diddy like kicking Cassie while she's down, dragging her down the sort of hotel hallway. And it goes on in here. It's like in the security video, Combs is seen chasing Ventura down a hotel lobby, grabbing her by the throat, shoving her to the ground, kicking her as she lays on the ground, motionless, and at one point throws an object at her. Okay, then it goes into Combs allegedly offering him a wad of cash and saying, "Don't tell nobody." That's just insane to me. I mean, obviously, he may or may not have accepted it. I don't know what the whole story is there, but clearly that footage got out. That footage got out because we pretty much on the internet, if you've been paying attention to the story, you have seen that footage, and it is chilling. It is chilling. It looks like someone who has no care in the world for anybody else, and he feels justified, I think, in his sort of mind to just throw money at a guy and be like, yeah, you're not going to tell anybody. Like, what? Sean says, oh, I thought Flores was a cop. I'm not sure if maybe this was just his like other job, but he was now he is. Okay, Monday Flores, now an LA Police Department officer. Okay, so maybe he was a security guard at the Intercontinental Hotel at the time, and now he's a cop, like you said. But there's a lot going on. There's a lot, especially when you think like a lot of people have this sort of parasocial relationship with celebrities, and that sort of idea of how you think you know people, right? You watch them on social media, you watch all their sort of music videos, blah blah blah, they're singing the lyrics, you think you know them. But this video was like, it was a real turning point for a lot of people who thought, no, he would never do stuff like that. All the sexual stuff, that's all consensual. People sign NDAs. They're just mad. Maybe he didn't pay them, whatever. But to watch this video of him with Cassie I think it was a very big turning point for a lot of people. Tell me your thoughts about the P. Diddy trial. Because this was something I actually just screenshotted. Let me show you. Hold on. I got to get it for you. This right here. Oh, wrong person. This one. Ventura's husband will be allowed to sit in court. This is her husband. His name's Alex Fine, for a portion of her testimony this morning. And apparently they were arguing that P. Diddy's attorneys, that they did not want him in the court to listen to her testimony because they might, depending on what she said, they might have been calling him to be a rebuttal witness for Diddy's side of the case. But in this morning, they actually did let him in. It says Combs' defense wants to bar Ventura's husband from the court during her testimony, but they did let him in during a portion of her testimony, which is crazy that Diddy would want to use him as a rebuttal witness against Cassie. I'm not in the courtroom. Obviously, it's not being streamed. It's not a live televised anything. So we're just getting sort of the news reporting from whomever the news media is that's in the room. What do you think about that? Do you think it should have been televised? I mean, there's so much public interest in this case. Do you think it should have been televised, like the Michael Jackson trial, or even the Johnny Depp trial? Or do you think we just don't need to be invested in these people's lives? I mean, I'm not sure how I feel about that. Sean says, nope, it's federal. I mean, everybody, I feel like there's there's a lot to this case that we will never know, right? Like there's a lot to like the sexual allegations and the this and the that. But there's a lot of more of the financial stuff that I feel like could be of interest to the public. Not the whole like what did who he did this with her and she did this with him and they did it together. Like that's all very salacious. But I feel like the financial crimes, I would be very interested in like hearing more about that because they're charging him, I think, with this sort of financial crimes of like he has a criminal enterprise, like that kind of stuff. I think that's very interesting. Sean says, I don't want that energy in my living room. No, although I don't know, there's a lot of the population these days that watches Netflix that find it to be very calming to watch some sort of documentary about serial killers. And I don't know what that says about our society, but maybe we were just numb to all of that. Let's get to the other one. There are so many court cases this morning. That's why I was telling you earlier, like, this is just madness today. French actor Gérard Depardieu found guilty of sexual assault. Vivian, I want you to weigh in on this because I read this to my husband this morning and I said, "Did you hear he was found guilty?" And he said, "Well, those allegations have been swirling around him for years and years and years." And I was like, I mean, I don't know him because yes, I know him. Wasn't he in like Cyrano de Bergerac or whatever? Like, I feel like I know him, but I've not followed his career. And obviously because I'm not French, but I was like, really? But apparently this was a sort of Me Too case that has just finally bubbled to the surface, similar to like a Harvey Weinstein Me Too finally bubbled to the surface, where people have been making jokes about his behavior in movies, scripts, and different things. They've been making jokes about P. Diddy in movie scripts too. Like we heard something the other day and it was like, oh, like a Diddy party. Like it was in a movie. Like people have been saying things out loud, saying like the quiet part out loud, but people like me, I haven't been paying attention. We would never have known, right? Yeah, so this happened. This was from today. Did you know about this, Vivian? Like, have you heard of these rumors for years? Because that's what my husband said, that it's been swirling for a long time. So this is from Reuters. A Paris court Tuesday found French actor Gérard Depardieu guilty of sexually assaulting two women on a film set in 2021, handed him an 18-month suspended prison sentence in a fall from grace for a towering figure of French cinema. Now, I'm not sure what that means because 18 months suspended, I don't know how much time he's actually spent waiting for this trial to happen. So I'm not quite sure if maybe that suspension of the sentence is to allow him some time to, what's it called, to appeal. Who knows? But I do think that this is very interesting. Vivian says, he is so a woman lover. Yep, it's been going on for years. Now, I'm not sure what he did on this film set. I think I read something about him groping, excuse me, some woman on the film set, but this is not that long ago. Excuse me, I have hiccups. 2021, like 4 years ago, like he's been in French cinema for a long time. And so if he was accused of this from a film set in 2021, I mean, and my husband saying it's been in the news for years and years. Yeah, how long has it been going? So that's that. Let's talk about politics for a minute. So this is somebody that a lot of people in the Democratic side of things don't think is doing enough. This is Chuck Schumer. And he announces blanket hold on DOJ political nominees as he demands answers on Qatari plane. We all have heard about the Qatari plane, the luxury plane that Donald Trump has been gifted by the Qatari family, a royal family, I believe. And it is in clear violation of what we would consider the emoluments clause and what you can and cannot receive as a foreign gift from any foreign country. But at least he's trying. I'm just going to give him that today. At least he's trying to hold the line, whether it's performative or whether or not it actually shifts some things in the political landscape. What do you think about the Qatari plane? because he tried to equate it like a press conference yesterday, like, well, when somebody gives you a putt, you pick it up and you move to the next hole. Like he was so nonchalant about his taking a gift from a foreign country. And to me, I'm thinking like the security concerns I would have about taking a plane and feeling okay about getting into it, flying on it, like they're tracking you. Like obviously people can track planes in the sky, but they can also blow up planes in the sky. Like I don't know. I don't know what their motives are, but people say this is more of like a um Donald Trump's son, I think, announced a sort of golf project or something that's like $5.5 billion in Qatar. I'm saying that wrong. It's either Qatar or Qatar. I'm not sure. People say it both ways, and I'm not quite sure which one it is. And then suddenly this $400 million plane was gifted. And so it just feels very icky. If you weren't feeling the ick before, it feels like the ick. Vivian says, there is something under the table. You don't give this like a gift for free. Thank you. There was that song. I don't know if it was Janet Jackson. She said, "The best things if life are free," but they're not. Right? They are not. Even like J-Lo said, love don't cost a thing. Oh, but it does. Heartache, trauma, all the time in the world. Like there's a line here. I swear I can't catch it. But I think that this is a step in the right direction for Chuck Schumer to actually get in there and do something. This one I thought was very interesting. United Healthcare CEO steps down for personal reasons. I'm curious, you guys, what are these personal reasons? This is the guy who stepped in after the other CEO was shot and killed in New York City. And I'm not going to say whether it was done by a person or not, because that person is still innocent until proven guilty. But this is the guy who stepped in after that other guy was shot and killed in New York City. And now he is leaving. And I have this from the article. It says Whitty, I think that's his name, helped steer the company following the murder of United Healthcare CEO Brian Thompson last year. United Healthcare is a unit of the parent company that Whitty helmed. Thompson's fatal shooting outside of New York hotel brought light to significant public outrage about the health insurance industry, with Whitty publicly acknowledging in a New York Times essay that the U.S. health system is not perfect and that coverage decisions are not well understood. Now, we understand them. I think we all understand that people are getting denied healthcare claims every day. And I think one of the things that came to light over time was that they were denying a significant amount of claims, and that some of those denials may or may not have been made by AI. And that is so concerning for a lot of people that are trying just to get better, right? Sean says one adds pressure on Boeing to deliver new Air Force One and Two. It shows Israel Trump's displeasure by working with their enemy, Qatar. Very interesting. I've been seeing a lot of this sort of chatter about the US and Israel's relationship, specifically as it has to do with Gaza and the sort of pummeling, leveling of the Gaza Strip, as Israel would probably more or less do with or without anybody else's help. And that's like recent. Obviously, Netanyahu, he can't go to a lot of places. He's being sought after as a war criminal at this point. I'm so surprised that he's still, retaining power at this point. But yeah, that's a big one. And the pressure on Boeing, I mean, I understand Boeing has had some issues in the past, few years or so. So yes, maybe this does take a little bit of the pressure off. I saw an article, I think yesterday, where it said that they had moved the schedule up to deliver the planes not in 2029, but now in like 2027, so that they're able to get the planes up and running while Donald Trump is still in office. My personal opinion is I think this forcing out impeachment process should be handled before 2027, because my God, we are on this crash course into the oblivion of oligarchy, kakistocracy, back into Germany, 1930s, like what's going on? But Boeing, hopefully they'll get something out there and he'll be able to not be riding in this airplane. Speaking of Donald Trump, in the headquarters over there in Saudi Arabia, I'm not quite sure what this is really all about, except, do you remember that orb picture? Like, I'm just waiting for another one of those orb picture where they all put their hand on the orb. That's just what I'm thinking right now. That this is one of those moments where we're all just gonna be like, what? What are they doing? But apparently he's making this part of his big deal. But it's very interesting that he hasn't gone to a lot of the countries that we would consider to be like extremely good allies. And I'm not sure if that's because he has 34 felonies or if he just is not feeling like that's a priority. That this relationship is a priority because they are lavishing and him with gifts and things like this. I don't know. It just is very unsettling. They also did this. I think this is from today, 1 hour ago. They cut another $450 million in grants to Harvard on top of the 2.2 billion that they already froze. And I think it's very interesting that they are targeting these prestigious schools. Some people have speculated that these are schools that maybe his son didn't get into. I'm not quite sure. Definitely subscribe to my channel. I want to keep mentioning it because it's free to do. And like this live stream if you have a moment. Tell me your thoughts about Harvard. Tell me your thoughts about cutting the funding. Obviously, there are a lot of grants, there are a lot of donations, there are a lot of people who graduated from Harvard who really love to donate to the school. So some people might say they don't need the federal grants. They don't need that kind of money. But a lot of people say actually they do. They do because they have, I think, a hospital that they do a lot of research at. And some of that money goes to the research hospital. It's not necessarily going into the sort of coffers of these buildings that, may or may not benefit the students, but that it's going to medical research at these sort of research hospital. I'm not quite sure what they are allocating this money to, but it definitely is his sort of like leverage, right? He's leveraging this money, this sort of grants as like, you do what I want, or I'm just going to keep your money. And unfortunately, I don't think that this is going to stop Harvard from operating. Casey is giving self-reflection advice in the comments, and you know what? That is actually, if you are more constructive in how you say it, I actually think that you have a little bit of a point. Every party should do some self-reflecting. Even if you are a Bernie Sanders supporter and very much independent, or even a progressive person that is farther left than maybe I am, I think everybody needs some self-reflecting. People who are accepting white Afrikaners to the United States while pulling families apart on the streets of our country and accepting this as the way our country should go forward, absolutely should do some self-reflecting. People who believe that the poorest of the poor don't deserve our respect or even a little dignity because they need to just pull themselves up from the bootstraps and can't recognize systemic racism or sexism or having their rights taken away, absolutely we should do some self-reflecting. For the Democratic Party, I think there's a lot of factions. There's some different factions that are going on there that I actually think is very exciting to see how those will play out during the nomination process for 2028. I think it's going to be great. I think that everybody's voice needs to be heard, and the one that sounds the most reasonable will be the one that most likely will get nominated. Let's see. They promote agendas with grants. Okay. Agendas meaning what? Because some people might think that medical research to identify treatments that may help people doesn't seem like a bad agenda. Now, I'm really curious as to which agendas you might have an issue with, because that's a conversation to have for sure. That's from yeah, I can't read it. Casey says, you guys need to do a lot right now. Blah, blah, blah. Okay, thank you for your comments. I do think that every single person who is engaged with politics can do more. Absolutely. Do we have time to do more? I don't know. Some people like me, I'm doing my part in voicing my concern over certain things that I find to be interesting and unique and debatable. And I do think that comments that are constructive and lead to positive change, whether it's reform or not, there's some things that I actually screenshotted about the bill that they have. This is part of the big, beautiful bill that they want to propose for the Committee on Energy and Commerce. This is from May 11th. It's the proposed budget. And I have some issues with what they're saying in this bill that I think you guys can come back to. It's this section 44141, the requirement for states to establish Medicaid community engagement requirements for certain individuals, which is basically 80 hours of working. Okay, so a lot of people who have part-time jobs don't actually get 80 hours per month to actually work. You might be getting 15 hours, 15, 30, and then you only get 60 per month. So sometimes these sort of work requirements, if you have children, those are not able to be met by a lot of people who need Medicaid. That's one of the things that I have a problem with their Medicaid proposal. Another one is this section 44142, which says modifying cost sharing requirements for certain expansion individuals under the Medicaid program. And this is talking about the federal poverty level. It's called FPL. So I would encourage you to go in here because the poverty level is about $16,000 per year. And they're saying that the people who have income over 100% over the federal poverty level, which basically means $32,000 per year, need to start cost sharing, basically paying out of pocket a specific amount per procedure or per appointment. And if you were on one of my live streams the other day, we went over the federal poverty level. We actually went over what is considered low income in California. Low income programs where you can apply for housing assistance in California is at $111,000. So if they're expecting people at $32,000 to start cost sharing with the state over all of their sort of appointments, yet the low income level to apply for housing assistance is $111,000 because we have such a housing crisis here, this doesn't match up. Anyways, I am doing self-reflecting, as I'm sure you are as well. Thank you so much for joining me, and I will see you guys tomorrow morning. I do live streams right here on YouTube every single morning of Monday through Friday. And don't forget to subscribe and like this if you can. Bye, guys.